Welcome. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you behind the scenes insights on how to effectively handle a job search. I'm going to be talking to those who are passively looking and those who are faced with having to look for employment. I want to give you some strategies here up front. I've got a variety of notes I'm going to be referencing, but I want to talk about the power and the basics that, yes, when you're job hunting, use a spreadsheet. A lot of people use a spreadsheet to track the date that they applied to a role, the link to the role, maybe even the hiring manager's name, definitely the company. And if there's any other columns that could be specific to if they got back to you, if they accepted you for an interview, or if sadly they've declined you. That's a very standard way to approach job searching. That is definitely something that people want to do. I know that backend inside Indeed and Recruiter, or which is what is on LinkedIn, they can give you some sort of tracking tools as well. Some people love the spreadsheet. You do what's easiest for you, which is also something that is not going to force you to burn out too soon. One of the key things about job searching is personal momentum. And when you have that momentum and you keep the excitement at a level that is sustainable, you're going to be able to survive a long search. And if we've learned anything the last 5 years at the time of recording this in 2024, it's longer. There is definitely interviewing fatigue. There is definitely hiring fatigue. And so knowing that up front and setting yourself up for success is something that I'm extremely passionate about in putting into the ears and hearts of those that are job seeking. I want to share with you four things that are not very common. And the four things we're going to talk about is your personal goals and how do you actually know what those are before you start your job search if you're passively looking, and how do you accelerate that personal goal comprehension about yourself when you are actively searching. The second thing I want to talk about is that resume. Ultimately, the personal branding elements that help you stand out from a flood of other resumes. And that piece of paper is the first thing they get to interact with that speaks you. And so, what does your resume look like? Number three, I want to talk about how we're going to use LinkedIn and how LinkedIn is going to be your thought partner, accountability partner, and your job search partner when it comes to connecting with hiring managers and open roles. And then the last one, I'm going to give you some secrets that are extremely easy and free that are going to help you dive into how to actually connect with those that are looking to hire someone like you. So let's dive into that first one. I happen to have a phenomenal workbook, and I say phenomenal because that's the feedback I've heard from those that have gone through it. It's 4 modules, and it's a self-discovery workbook that really allows you the opportunity to connect with who you are as a professional, as well as who you are personally, because we do bring our personal self to the office. Inside each of those modules, you're going to be listening to a specific podcast episode from the Exceptional Admins show. And then we give you a series of questions to get your thoughts going beyond listening to the conversation. Why is this important during job searching? There is so much to be said around captivating stories. Quite honestly, people want to work with people that are interesting. And one of the things I run into a lot with people who are looking for advice is, Hilani, I don't know how to market myself. And that's because we've had this huge gap between what we do, because it becomes autopilot on the job. And then we have this gap from, it's really hard for me to market myself. And so going through the workbook that is a self-discovery, there'll be a link in the notes for you to be able to access it. You're going to get more connected with who you are on the job, what your purpose is, and essentially what the value is that you bring to the office every day. Okay. The next thing, when we want to talk about that personal journey and how you want to connect with your personal goals, oftentimes, as I was just mentioning, it's extremely hard to market yourself. I had the pleasure of connecting with an admin who, after 14 years, was let go through a round of layoffs. And she said to me on the phone, Hilani, I don't want to have to sell myself. Just put me in the role so I can show that I am an amazing contributor to the company's goals and objectives. And I said, well, unfortunately, you and I both know that's not how it works. And so we have to work even harder to illuminate the imagination, right? Make them consider and understand and see you in the role that they are trying to fill. And so going through the workbook that's for self-discovery and professional and personal development, you're going to be able to get those stories dialed in so they are right there at the forefront of your thoughts. Something else I want to talk about, we have small tangents still sort of in the self-discovery. We have two other assessments on our website. One is about risk taking, right? Are you chance inclined or chance adverse? It's really important to know that about yourself so you can talk about that in a certain way, either on your resume or if you've been given an opportunity for an interview to talk about your risk tolerance. And then the next one, and this is for those that quite aren't sure if they should actively be looking. Maybe they've fallen out of love with the role that they're in now. We have a very simple 10-question career audit assessment. Where are you at in your happiness? What does that look like? And we give you action items after taking the assessment based on what your answers are. And so those are two other resources, again, in that personal journey. We also have a brief podcast episode, and this is for those that aren't sure if they should leave or not. It's called WTF. It's a part of our podcast and is not what you think. So I'll leave the curious minds lingering and hanging there. Okay. Moving to the next thing, we cannot ignore that searching for a job is hard. And how do we make that a little bit easier? And it is through that first introduction to you, which is the resume. And resumes of even 2023 are not cutting it anymore because they all look the same. And the information is kind of a repeat for every role, especially for administrative individuals, which is my main audience. How do we, again, illuminate the imagination, sort of invite that, wow, this is very interesting about this person. I want to learn more. That's going to be one of my secrets in just a moment. You have to think about your resume as you're telling your career story. It is a commercial for you. And let's say a commercial for a movie. Do you want to buy tickets to go see it? That is the message that we are trying to convey in our resume. One of the key things in my online resume course is that opening summary. A lot of the times, 95% of the time, when I'm looking at thousands of resumes over the span of the years I've been running my company, it's a regurgitation to what is below in all the other roles. And that's a missed opportunity to convey your unique value, a little bit of personality, something that is not mentioned below. If we have 8 seconds, maybe 10 if we're lucky, of their attention to decide, are you in or are you out? We want to catch them with that opening. Imagine you see a movie trailer and your favorite star is highlighted in the first 4 seconds. You're like, oh, now I'm interested because I like to see them on the big screen. And so that opening right there in your resume must be so compelling. And by the way, nothing that's mentioned below to really give them an understanding of you so they get excited about you. That very much is tied to personal branding, which is one of my other courses. We talk so much about the value of elevating your executive presence. What is your executive voice? Vocabulary that you've been using for decades, and what the new way is to communicate who you are. In your resume, as I mentioned, is that first step into getting to know you. Personal branding has to just completely, unicorn glitter, sprinkle throughout. And if it's an outdated resume, again, as I said, 2023, those resumes are outdated. That means you got to blow off a lot of dust if your resume is even older than that. And how do you stand out? One of the things I hear all the time, Hilani, I've seen a ton of resumes. Is it one page? Is it two? By the way, it should be two, unless you've got really high profile people that they can kind of imagine what you did on the job. Two is good if you're a new career person into the adulting world. One page is sufficient, but really having a wealth of information to, again, illuminate the imagination to see the movie trailer for you. And so personal branding and resume, career storytelling are my disruptive elements to really help you also connect with who are you, which is beautifully going to come through when you are working on your interviewing style and how you want to also communicate over email. What's that executive presence? All right, I mentioned the third thing that we were going to cover is going to be how we use LinkedIn. I have the back end recruiter tool. And so it allows me to see all those wonderful people who've toggled on open to work. And I can also run some reports. So for you, professionals who are out there pursuing postings on LinkedIn, first off, getting in the first day of a job being posted is where there's so much noise. And so a secret is hopefully, which I know for those that are very actively looking, you live in LinkedIn like you lived at your desk at work. And that's okay. Definitely take time off. Definitely take time off. High volume posting days are Mondays and Thursdays. And so kind of think about that in your strategy. And day two is easier to get noticed than day one. Now, day 3, 4, and 5, sometimes you'll see jobs posted for 3 weeks, 300 postings. I want to give you some hard facts, and they're not positive, so stick with me. If it's week 3 and week 4, there is a strong percentage that they have already started a round of interviews. And inside those rounds of interviews, they have sort of met some of the candidates that are setting a bar. And then if they're going to look at any resumes, which is where it's so blind and unfortunate for all of you, you have no idea what bar has been set. But if your resume is strong and your brand is strong, you could stand out because no one else is paying attention to that. So that candidate A has set this bar. And so any other candidates that start to apply week 3, 4, and 5, they've got to be more than the bar that's been set by someone. And so if your resume is already looking like 2024 and the future and not like all the years past, that will help you stand out. You can also apply and not hear anything from them for, which they say it's the black hole of applying, 7 to 10 days. Here's my next great tip about LinkedIn. If someone reaches out to you and sends you a message through a messenger on LinkedIn, I've noticed that LinkedIn must give you an AI prompt of send that message, which means it's a standard message. Please don't use it. Please customize your note. Thank you so much for reaching out. I'm going to look at this opportunity and get back to you within 24 hours. Your executive presence in that reply is so much stronger than using that auto reply. Yes, tell me more. There's very little action and prompt and personalization in that you've lost the chance to stand out. If you're going to send communication, make it personal, make it lively, make it you versus the automated. So that's one of my big secrets about LinkedIn. The third secret about LinkedIn is yes, if the hiring manager is showing their face that they're connected to the employer, follow them. Don't make a connection request. They'll see that you haven't done anything. You're going to wait 48 hours. And then you're going to send a connection request with a personalized note. I noticed that this job has been open for 3 weeks. These top 2 strengths I bring to the role in the first 30 days, I would very much like to be considered. That message solves the question of who are you? What do you bring? And you're immediately talking about you in action on the job. Those LinkedIn tips are super valuable. All right, coming to the end here, the fourth thing. And these are some of those secrets tied into some of the other things I just mentioned. The biggest question that you need to answer for the hiring manager is, do you fit the culture? And will it be easy to onboard you? I'll say that again. Do you fit the culture? And will it be easy to onboard you? And so, what do I mean by that when it comes to applying? It goes back to the resume, it goes back to personal branding, it goes back to that opening summary. If your opening summary says, I'm going to focus on X and Y in my first 30 days, you have created some relief for that hiring manager that's wondering, okay, do they fit the culture? And what does it look like onboarding you? Meaning, do you have a very steep learning curve? Or are you pretty dialed in on what to expect in that first 30 days that I'm only going to be a guide to onboard you, not carrying you through that first 30 days. If you can answer that question, you have a higher chance of them wanting to give off precious time from their calendar to talk to you. It's really unfortunate through thousands of 7,000 calls now in 7.5 years when people show up to the phone interview not prepared. They don't have the job description. They didn't do, some healthy sleuthing on the company. And the conversation is instantly flat. And so that sort of third secret is people hire for enthusiasm. And I know if it's your 40th interview, you don't want to look up the company. You forgot the job description. You might have even forgot the phone interview was scheduled. If that starts to happen to you, that is the big sign of take a pause, take a 2-day break, get outside, be with friends, go have lunch in a very business district area to re-energize yourself about getting back into the workplace. And so the secrets are specifically with, do you fit the culture, which can happen in the opening summary. Fun story. There was a woman I met in her early 50s, and I said, "What do you like to do for fun?" She goes, "I am an avid kickboxer." And I thought, I'm going to openly share, I would have not have guessed that. And so you need to have an about me at the bottom of your resume that says that, to sort of talk about your, go-getter, high energy. Hey, you kind of surprised me. I would not have expected that. And especially if it's an athletic culture where people are active all the time, you fit in. You've answered that question, do they fit our culture? And the next thing in the opening summary on a new resume that's 2024 in the future, when you're talking about what you're going to be able to provide in that first 30 days, you're already forecasting into what it looks like to be on the job, which means you get it. And so those two questions that they are trying to answer is going to have a higher chance for you to be able to earn space on their calendar and give you that time to truly wow them beyond a piece of paper that can't, share who you are. I hope this information is going to help you have a more enjoyable job hunting, job search experience. Check out the notes for a wealth of resources to carry you through that journey, and best of luck.